Indeed, as a result, this liquidity pool is most likely to... If you are not deeply immersed in the crypto world and not constantly keeping an eye on the events and movements that truly drive the market and make it pulsate, it might not immediately come across to you what kind of values an additional liquidity pool represents for individuals who live their lives as crypto enthusiasts and rely on the market's fluctuations. You know, let's build up why we need it. And obviously there are different goals with which a liquidity pool is used, and there are reasons why they are created. It is important to understand the purpose and benefits of liquidity pools, as well as the factors that contribute to their creation and utilization in various contexts. You know, the first and most important reason was that there could be buying and selling. Because if there is a functioning system that has a utility token, what does utility token mean? It signifies that there is a certain type of function within a provided system that is capable of executing that particular function. In the case of Mosaic Alpha, this is a very clear function. This is how banks typically operate and everything of that nature. So they record the expenses, and then in the small text, it states that in reality, it is not that significant, but rather considerably more. Well, now in the Mosaic alphabet, there's one thing upside down, because the maximum cost that can be collected is written out, but if someone does this and that, then it can decrease that way. Now, this utility is the Kodexa, or the utility of the Kodexa token, to reduce costs, because if users lose their Kodexas, otherwise I didn't ask this, can you hear? But I guess you would have let me know if my number was working. Sure, perfect, good. So the utility of it is that it helps users talk their way through the codes and thereby reduce their costs. Well, but if they couldn't afford it, then this is completely pointless. But here they can buy it. That's what it was born for, right? This was the very first goal of the liquidity pool, to be able to solve this. So the liquidity pool has commenced. Well, at the time of its commencement, there was a considerable amount of planning and deliberation involved, you know. What should the Kodexa be paired with? Here, two tools came into play, USDT and Bitcoin, both of which are commonly used in the cryptocurrency industry. There were solid arguments on both sides, but it was evident that in that situation, USDT emerged as the top choice. I don't want to delve into that now. We can discuss it later if you prefer. But even at that time, we were aware of the necessity for a Bitcoin code to address liquidity purge. So now, you know, Kodexa is entering as the second participant into the Bitcoin liquidity pool. Why is this good? Well, for one thing, and this is not a hidden aspect, if Bitcoin and Kodexa are facing each other and they are in a liquidity pool together, the value of Kodexa also increases along with the increase in the value of Bitcoin, which is advantageous for both cryptocurrencies in terms of their market performance. This is a significant matter, and we are uncertain about what the upcoming months will bring, so we are simply hoping for the best. However, we can have a reasonable level of certainty regarding this matter, although not an absolute one, but our anticipation is that Bitcoin will experience a substantial increase in value within the next 18 months to 2 years, to derive advantages from the fact that if we possess a strong liquidity pool with its code, it will significantly enhance the value of the code. Well now, this is only beneficial and can only be effective if there is already a favorable balance between the two opposing forces. So what is the significance of having both? With a small BTC liquidity pool, we won't achieve this. We won't achieve anything with that, but I'll discuss this later in more detail. If you possess both, then what is the functioning mechanism of the market? Inflate the worth of Bitcoin. By the way, if, at the same time, the value of the codex is also increasing, then this adds up to the overall increase in value. With USDT, this does not happen. I mean, the value of Kodexa increases with the value of Kodexa, but USDT does not experience an increase in value. To balance things out, fortunately, there are market players who engage in arbitrage transactions. They monitor if there's a variance in the exchange rate of a specific asset across different markets such as various liquidity pools. Subsequently, they rectify the imbalance by purchasing on one side and selling on the other, taking advantage of the lower price to buy and the higher price to sell. The value was lower, and as a result, the demand increased, leading to a higher value for the increased demand. Well, it is not like the market waits for a 20-30% difference and then they move things around. It is a continuous process that occurs without pause. And why is this advantageous for us? In many ways, it's good. But now what's the benefit for us that I want to focus on? Because there are two places where trading takes place. The trading that takes place in these two places exactly boosts the volume due to arbitrage transactions. Traffic will be higher. Increased traffic shows a good market picture. And what else does higher traffic bring? It's a shame we can't work interactively now due to the increased traffic. Well, they do pay for the costs of switching in addition to the higher amount of traffic. The fees for transactions, as you may know, do not come to us, but the costs of conversion, on the other hand, are retained in the pool, which is distributed to those who have made deposits into the liquidity pool. And let's ponder upon it. In the scenario where there exists, for example, a money exchange facility within a shopping mall, so there, people are changing money that they want to use. If there are two money changers, someone will already appear who engages in arbitrage transactions. The example is not entirely accurate because it wouldn't work like this due to the costs, but let's ignore that for now. The traffic will increase dramatically at the two currency exchange offices due to arbitrage transactions. And this drastic increase in traffic is good for both currency exchanges because the currency exchange lives off the currency exchange costs. So the two liquidity pools are, because of the many factors, but this is also an important factor, it will be much livelier, much more active. And what impact can this have on the market if there are two liquidity types of the Codex that are so lively, so dynamic, and so widely used, and it has a gravitational effect, and it brings users to Mosaic Alpha as well. So this is a catalyst in an ecosystem where I believe all individuals involved benefit from it, because traders benefit from it, the platform benefits from it, the one who uploaded the liquidity pool benefits from it, and otherwise the arbitrage transactions, those who perform them, also benefit from it, because otherwise they would not engage in such profitable transactions. So this may appear to be a less significant action in order to activate such a liquidity pool than it actually is in reality. One component of such a system, which possesses the capability to determine the precise amount of momentum that a platform can initiate from a stationary position. So I had an abrupt desire to gather these things, but Petty might possess certain aspects that I didn't have a chance to discuss suddenly.
Hey everyone, I have also arrived in the meantime. I do not know, but as you can see, we actually had 3 goals, even though I missed the first 2 or 3 minutes. We've been thinking a lot about what we've learned from the first year of Corex, the different aspects of the equity pool, and we've analyzed whether it's ideal or not. Therefore, the rationale behind commencing the launch of the second liquidity pool at this precise moment is threefold, and we have arrived at this conclusion based on 3 distinct reasons. One thing is that we exploit the market situation, as Attila mentioned. By the way, we opted for the USDT pool due to a bearish market situation at the time, or at least an uncertain one. And obviously we didn't want the Kodexa to potentially drag down the crypto market crash. We observed the situation completely turned around, thus initiating the liquid pool was certainly an intelligent decision. And yes, in that respect, this cannot be emphasized enough. It is crucial to emphasize that if there's a US field and a liquidity pool against the Kodexa, then this is a market where only buyers and sellers of Kodexa trade. Once we initiate the opening of 2 marketplaces, the dynamics undergo a complete transformation, man. The pool is out and not twice as much traffic, but many times as much traffic, and thus fee revenue is expected to be generated in the pools. Essentially, this is the most crucial thing, and evidently, in relation to the pool, the demand has an impact on the exchange rate. So these are approximately the three factors that influenced our decision to choose the pool. And we see that this needs to be started. I absolutely see that the timing is good, so that's why we presented this proposal to you.
Yeah, what cannot be said at all. But I am telling you, it is in the air. I am not convinced that it will happen this way, but it is definitely in the air that there will be a downturn in the next 1, 2, 3 months. These are typically how things are at the start of a big cap market. So these setbacks tend to happen. This is not a necessary thing, but otherwise it is an additional advantage if this situation occurs. As you can add liquidity with the purchased Bitcoin at a lower price, it leads to a bigger rise from the setback. 1, 2, and even bigger. It is possible, but otherwise it is not as important as what I definitely want to talk about. When it comes to liquidity pool, so the liquidity pool with Bitcoin, you can allow one sentence ATI.
You allow one sentence. One thing is important to respect. I don't know. Actually, does everyone really know what the liquidity pool means and that they have participated in the liquidity pool? That's why I'm thinking of talking about it for a sentence now. Feel free. Sorry that I cut around because we met some, like Balaz and his gang, and they told us that there was someone among you who was calculating all the way until the past few weeks, or I don't know, regarding the Codex USDT liquidity pool. Oh, in the past when I was shopping, I obtained a code and completely forgot about everything else. It's so important to understand with the liquidity pool that when someone participates in the liquidity pool, whatever they put in there, in our case, Bitcoin and Kodexa, the MLVS, that is the liquidity pool, serves as a vital source of liquidity for financial markets. Owner of token remains same, with condition it stays in liquidity pool for certain period, might be 2 years, but that doesn't mean it's not significant quantity. We have the option to withdraw it at a later time using the liquidity pool token. The quantity has increased due to the conversion costs up to the amount that has been increased by the conversion fees. So when someone holds a liquidity pool, they actually hold both tokens at the same time, and this is the deal. So both Bitcoin in our case and Corex. I believed it was crucial to mention this because I was personally amazed that there was someone who, about Corex USDT liquidity pool, he calculated it as if it didn't exist or as if it belonged to another, not others. The one who owns the liquidity pool token. I just wanted to mention this in the meantime because it's important to this DOE.
Correct. So, and it's the same with the existing USDT liquidity pool, and the redeemed one now has its USDT in the liquidity pool along with its code number. So yeah, this was a significantly crucial and important aspect. So I want to talk about the size of the liquidity pool here. A really beautiful USDT code has been born in the liquidity pool, and every goal and every aspect that we set out to achieve with this new liquidity pool works if there is a healthy balance between the two liquidity pools. So here's a minimum number. So this is the TVL. This is the total value. So the total value of the liquidity pool is determined like this. The liquidity pool's total value is determined based on the TVL, which stands for total value locked. This is similar to an amount of $3.23 million when converted to United States dollar tether, USDT, a popular stablecoin cryptocurrency. We are in need of constructing a liquidity pool that can be compared to this. This signifies that it is worth commencing with liquidity pools valued at approximately $2 and $4 million, let's assume for the sake of argument. It's not ideal if it's too large because those goals will not be achieved with insufficient amounts. Insufficient amounts are simply meaningless because the insufficient liquidity pool cannot be used effectively because the price impact is excessively high when buying. It will not result in an increase in the price of Bitcoin. So we incorporated it into this lane. which implies that we will not allow it to exceed it. That is, by filling this liquidity pool. It will be available until we reach the ceiling, and, well, we won't stop until we reach the minimum, so somewhere in between it will happen. So this is an important aspect to consider, that you should count on the fact that the possibility of filling this liquidity pool will not last for a specific date, but it will remain open indefinitely without any predetermined deadline or time limit, ensuring continuous accessibility for all participants. When it reaches an appropriate value, we will open it and the uploading through packages will stop there. And, our request was to achieve this quickly so that attractive packages are born next to it. And I think, although I cannot look at it from a network perspective to 100%, but I am confident that we are on the right track to meet our goals. Well, we perceive the mathematics behind it as an exceedingly appealing prospect, and it is of great value, so individuals who lack complete comprehension should seek assistance, and if needed, we are able to delve into it more extensively in future instances, in order to prevent a situation where only a limited number of individuals grasp the reasons for its advantageousness when we elucidate it. So, I strongly and wholeheartedly recommend that everyone should not, under any circumstances, stop until they have a crystal clear and comprehensive understanding of why it is good and what specific goals it was originally created for. Well, you could just look at the packages, but I think it's best if a person knows what they're buying. Well, don't really buy anything that you don't understand. So, I just wanted to say this about it. I don't know, Petty, what other thoughts do you have about it?
In my opinion, I think that is the entirety of what needs to be said about the correctional liquidity. Yes, we have covered all the necessary points.
Okay, so we have it. Let's change the subject then. We have a topic about a trader interface which does not directly concern you, but it is very exciting for us because through the trader interface, the managers responsible for handling the baskets deal with the baskets, and at this point, the needs of what they would like to see and achieve in this situation emerged. So now I can state that it has been born, even though it is not completely finished, but a new trader interface has been finalized. The unparalleled convenience and transparency make it unbelievably easy for traders to operate the baskets, ensuring a seamless and efficient trading process. I am unaware of the specific details that you consider to be significant and worthy of inclusion within this context of discussion.
On one hand, it is crucial to note that practically this change request primarily pertains to the chair positioned inside the mosquito netting, which is of utmost importance. He established a connection with the new traders who were affiliated with them for the first time in his career. In essence, what we witnessed was that they inquired about the surface ahead of the others, in contact with Hungarian traders and crypto communities because they bring in new traders, make changes before that. And in actuality, this indeed makes it more practical, let us say. When I provide an example above the trader, they do not have to perform any calculations whatsoever. That when they sell 100 Bitcoins, how many Ethereums they want to receive in return. Let's say when they rearrange a portfolio, but there should also be an exchange rate calculator. There should be a button like that. There should be rounding. We have done more such modifications in TraderFollow, primarily based on feedback from Bensec, obviously to some extent based on our own experience as well. That is the reason why we had to make modifications. And based on these modifications, we made changes in accordance with the feedback that we received from stakeholders and users of the product.
Yeah, so our Lord has yet another topic once again. We were still in the midst of discussing the release of tokens, specifically the release of Mosaic tokens. Now, with respect to this specific matter, or disclose to me, Petty,
I don't know what you're thinking, and I think it's worth starting from the validators, right? You say, should I say? Well, spill the beans then, go on. Okay, so basically we've been thinking a lot about how the Mosaic should start. in terms of making sure everyone is happy and the cabbage stays intact, in order to avoid the Mosaic dance from commencing with the idea that a bunch of tokens will suddenly skyrocket and that anyone who wants to enter the market will generate such a selling wave, thereby allowing speculation to actually start and take place.
This is one of the ones we were thinking about, right? Yeah, but then you're absolutely right. But I would take one step back because I'm not sure if everyone is up to date with all the information. You know, it generally commences with a series of validators where you need to attract, or more precisely, stake the native digital currency of that chain. In this particular case, the Mosaic coin, which serves as the primary token for transactions and governance within the network. What additionally caused us a considerable amount of headaches was what to do with this, because based on the token distributions, individuals who purchased the validator at a later time received a smaller amount. Therefore, the sole feasible choice was if nobody had to discuss the Mosaic coins they had received up until now in the validators, so whoever was unaware of this information until this point in time should be extremely pleased. Now be very happy, but the consequence of this is that there will be a lot of Mosaic coins freely available on the market, which is a serious risk, because if many people start selling it, it will push down the price, and this needs to be prevented, that's all. In instances where a market commences and individuals already possess the specified cryptocurrency, this is the situation that applies to every network. This has a predetermined release schedule in order to prevent it from happening suddenly and unexpectedly on the market. Now I'd give the floor back to you, Petty.
That's awesome that you said that. I said it in a different order, but this way it's probably much easier to understand. Yeah, sure. So, to explain a little more precisely, this decision had to be made so that the validators themselves contain, so to speak, a quantity of knowledge, because there were many questions about what happens if I eat now, where will my Mosaic or my Bestekli come from, etc., etc. That's the right choice. This, on the other hand, is the deal. I don't need to assemble the Mosaic, and yes, from here. So you can grasp what I began with, and I didn't state this info in the correct order from this perspective. However, there is one more thing that is important to mention, to point out that this only applies to individuals who are presently receiving the validated dose of newspaper as a component of the crowdfunding campaign. After the Mosaic chain started, and if someone gains validator rights afterwards, because obviously they have to open this up to the crypto community to some extent, they have to buy Mosaic tokens, and they can only access validators at a higher price. This is a concluding statement in order to ensure that there will not be any occurrences of this nature in future validators. This opportunity is open to obtain the validator authorization in front of you. Don't miss it.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that after the chain starts, this type of validator will no longer be available, and everyone will have to purchase it from the market on equal terms, which will undoubtedly be a more unfavorable condition compared to the current state of affairs. And those, on the other hand, must put the Mosaic coins into the validators, correct? Affirmative, that statement is indeed correct.
Yes, I believed it was crucial to emphasize that one should not assume that this will consistently be the situation across the entirety of the Mosaic. Yes, the recitation, and that's exactly why, because there is no pressure to stake. You know, the Mosaic tokens, on one hand, it's positive that you don't have to chit-chat, but on the other hand, the release rate of Mosaic tokens is very similar to other projects. We will schedule it. This means that practically, for instance, the Attic is a good example. There was the Liberation Champagne. The Attic is a good example. For instance, on Solana's website, you can preview the number of upcoming releases along the timeline, including next month and subsequent months. The calculation is based on the total number of active users, as this information is widely known to everyone. Additionally, we are currently working on a similar feature, and as a result, there will be a release schedule in place. The timing of the release will depend on the quantity of Mosaic pre-tokens held by each user. We actually have a formula for this. We break it down a bit, but the main thing is that they are released more slowly in inverse proportion to the magnitude of the Turkish language that is depicted in the Mosaic. Lasaban means someone with, let's say, 100 Turkish delights will swiftly dispose of them, while someone who either 100,000 or 1 million, that is the amount, and it is much slower. At present, the time slot where the numbers are located is divided into an interval ranging from 2 to 4 years according to our plans, and we will also include this formula in the near future. This will ensure more accurate calculations and provide a comprehensive analysis of the data for our users.
All right, so in the meantime, allow me to swiftly share the visual appearance of the Solana, as it serves as a good example for the Solana and is also representative of similar cases elsewhere. Here, the Solana exhibits a highly transparent and clear appearance, enabling it to be easily interpreted. Good. We don't see it yet, but I know this if we succeed. I think you guys will do it now. Then I'll just turn it off. Okay, so here you can see, right, that it's currently showing December 2024, or maybe February, ... And you can see that if you click on it, it also shows the date of when the release will happen. And that's how it is. Right here, there will be a more significant release. This whole schedule is in place until 2028. In this case, by the way, there are funds that are currently locked and will be released in 2050. However, these funds are not insignificant in amount. If solar power becomes successful, which seems promising now, it will be worth a lot at that time. So here is one. This is simply a good example because, this is the one for the year 2025. In addition to the standout part, we can see that the release is relatively smooth, and it is always important to strive for this kind of smooth release because it has the potential to negatively impact a healthy growing ecosystem if it is not handled properly. We are planning to demonstrate a release schedule similar to this in the upcoming weeks. Stay tuned for more information on this exciting update.
Yeah, definitely it should not be intimidating for the market to witness a graph like this.
However, it is truly confidence-inspiring to know that if something like this is published, the market actually has expectations for it, and every serious project provides readily accessible information regarding it.
Yeah, so basically this is where we ended up actually as the optimal solution. And no, yeah, someone just blurted out a question, saw it as a youngster. What will happen with the Solana when that big column jumps out in 2025? Well, that's exactly why we want to avoid big columns in the Mosaic too. This schedule is not accidental. Obviously, the market will price the cabbage. Well, it's public knowledge when he'll be released, everyone knows. It will not be like filling up and immediately hitting the market, the one who gets released, but obviously will go to the market, will probably not have a significant impact on that day. But of course, we are not fortune tellers and cannot predict the exact outcome. Apologies, I recently had a query that came to mind regarding the pivot, and I pondered.
Yeah, so in this particular case, the Solana ecosystem will not be impacted at all. It will function exactly the same way as it would without the jump. A Solana, the exchange rate of the coin will be affected, and what Petty said, this prices the market in advance, so usually by the time they get there, there is some degree of decline, and there comes the big question of whether it will flood the market for the person who released the coin or not, because it is also possible that it will continue to hold and not flood it. In terms of spills, by the way, if it spills over, it's generally characterized by a quick crash, and then there tends to be a subsequent recovery that typically takes place. So an occurrence such as this is of greater interest to individuals who are inclined towards speculation and find enjoyment in speculating about various possibilities and outcomes. And not for individuals who have a long-term perspective, but in the case of an unreasonably planned release, it can have a lasting negative impact, and if it turns out to be permanently bad, it already carries more serious consequences that cannot be easily rectified or undone.
That's right. If we're talking speculation, I, for one, definitely won't speculate on something like that. I'm more of a Bientalter type, but that's just a personal preference, so I definitely won't speculate on whether they'll decide on the Solanart that day or not. I don't know. If we are talking about validators, Mosaic, and Liberation, we could provide some information on the recent 3-day development stage that took place here. We can refer to it as a hackathon where the entire Smooth development team, including front-end, back-end, and Viggy, actually has a really cool new front-end guy. There were more than 10 team members in Benaziroda for a duration of 3 days.
Day and night, you have to add an osmotic day and night.
Because actually most people have been working from home so far, and we felt that the whole team really felt the need to work together. So let's do a multi-day thing and set a relatively ambitious goal for these 3 days that we will try to achieve together.
Yes, and well, the truth is that actually this incident took place, and the underlying reason was that Viggy had a remarkably strong and innovative idea that needed to be thoroughly explored and evaluated in order to determine its feasibility and practicality.
Yes, that is the subject matter. In fact, earlier I made mention of it during one of the occasions when I was speaking at an event. At Mosaic's, we would like a, wait, don't mention it, don't say it, let it lead up to an exciting revelation.
Okay, so you have to understand that this entire decentralized world is not quite ready or fully prepared at the moment. The operation of a decentralized economy is presently being examined and analyzed by the human race. And there is a whole bunch of stuff you can utilize effectively, and there are decentralized blockchains, which are trustless. You do not have to trust anyone. The intermediaries are eliminated. But you know, the profession knows exactly that there is a weak point here that it's not worth talking about, because that's how it is and that's it, and you have to accept it, because there is no other solution. That with these highly reliable, trustless, decentralized systems, we gather data from a central entity, an individual creates an explorer, and we read all the data from there, which can now be debated whether someone has a vested interest in manipulating the data or not, but it must be known that an explorer shows us what its creator wants us to see, and it is crucial to recognize that the displayed information may be curated to serve a specific purpose. And typically this is what is on the blockchain, so the correct data, but you have to believe it. This phenomenon, or characteristic, was well known to all, and its solution remains unresolved. Despite the passage of time, the mystery persists, with no definite answer in sight. The lack of resolution continues to puzzle and captivate, leaving many eager for answers to this enduring enigma that has eluded explanation for so long. So Viggy had a big idea. And he had the basic idea in his head. He simply had to figure out whether it could be achieved. So the significant battle situation is that this planning, in all honesty, is not fully prepared yet and is still a work in progress. However, we were able to complete the most crucial points. This outcome is a direct consequence of the 3-day effort. And, well, please refrain from publicizing it widely at this moment, but we are optimistic that in the near future, it may seem that the world's first decentralized explorer will make its debut on the Mosaic chain, marking a significant milestone in blockchain technology.
Yeah, and actually not just, but let's say I neglected this yesterday, but now let's come together and work on it. So ATI was a bit more reserved. I would say that we have made a big leap, not only in terms of planning, but also at the proof of concept level in this matter. Well, let us truly bring in an explorer where virtually all validators and nodes actively participate in running this massive decentralized explorer that encompasses the entire network and provides comprehensive insights into its operations and transactions, which I believe is a positive aspect because, as ATI mentioned, up until this point in time, it has consistently been the centralized platforms such as BSC Scan, like Etherscan, and similar others that's running on someone's server over there, and we blindly trust that it says what really resisted the blockchain. But with Mosaics, it won't be necessary, and this is something that what they have not done yet in this particular form, so that is an innovative approach. I dare say that it will happen, but we are working extremely hard to ensure that it becomes a reality. And a very important milestone in the NPP.
Well, and then a little behind the scenes secret, because we managed to shock the polka dots too, because, you know, there were a few discussions from a technological point of view here. So you came from Vigya Parity, from the Parity team, and it leaked out that we're dealing with this. So on the third day, 2 people called in to find out more about it. They're really interested in it. So it's likely that with this, and actually not just with this, but with this, it's a big technological advancement, hopefully. I appreciate your interest and hope that this development will have a positive impact on our work. Thank you for reaching out and showing your enthusiasm. We truly desire to generate interest in the market, but yes, I still want to be a bit cautious because not every aspect of this is completely prepared in the planning stage. However, genuinely, the most crucial challenges that could have been anticipated have already been successfully addressed.
Yes, that is correct. So I was also in attendance for almost the entirety of the duration. I spent the night sleeping, I confess, but it was a gratifying experience to fully immerse myself in it and give it my utmost effort. This is actually something that has a lot of elements. There will not be all the elements for sure, but it will be much more decentralized than anything else. And you can pretty it up with cryptography, explore consensus mechanisms and stuff like that. And obviously it is part of the plans, but do not get me wrong. We are not going to add any development just for the sake of it, only the essentials and the blah, blah, blah. Professional pride, which is not justified. This is precisely the type of thing that can potentially bring us to the attention, even in relation to technology. And from the perspective of the community, it can demonstrate that, wow, these individuals are truly intelligent. That is the rationale behind our initiation, and undoubtedly not based on our preference for it, not just because we like it.
Yeah, and well, you know, maybe it's not worth going into too much detail about the technology because that would require talking too much about it, and maybe it's not that important on this forum right now. But this is how a private network is created, through which the different components, primarily the validators, communicate with each other. This is not accomplished by individuals, but rather the protocol itself exchanges the information, and so forth. Well, documentation will be created about this. This is expected to be more interesting to individuals in the tech industry, as it is truly exciting.
Maybe one more sentence. Yeah, what is up?
It might be something like if now he would introduce a Mercedes to the market, let's say. Well, now there are already 500, 600, 700 horsepower, even 800 horsepower Mercedes, but now he would unveil a new technology where there is no electric motor, no combustion engine, but something completely different, and not 600 horsepower, but 7,300 horsepower. The tech guys would be interested in how this was solved.
Yes, in reality, I would go even further than that. Obviously, these fantasies and thoughts have already commenced because essentially, in order for this to work, you have to practically create a Mosaic VPN-like thing technologically, which requires a complex network infrastructure and advanced encryption protocols. We're seriously thinking about what else we can possibly build on top of it later, but we won't do anything for now. But there's more potential in it beyond being a decentralized explorer, closing remarks included.
Yeah, so this kind of opens up a completely new world here for not only the Mosaic, but really for the decentralized world as well. However, at present, we are still in the early stages of this story. Nonetheless, it is something we are incredibly thrilled about, although you wouldn't be able to tell from our appearance due to everyone being extremely tired.